Okay, welcome to part two of this lesson. So I asked you to start by factoring all the denominators, and you can see how it's going to be important to make sure that you not only you're accurate with factoring, but relatively quick as well. Because you see, factoring is just one step in what's generally a relatively long problem. So make sure your factoring is both accurate and efficient. So at this point, again, I'd like you to try and find the lowest common denominator. So do that on your own. And when you have the lowest common denominator, write it on your next line. I'll reveal it so you can check to make sure you've got it correct. Okay, so there's your lowest common denominator. You can see from the first fraction I need to pack two 3x plus 2's. So 3x plus 2, 3x plus 2. For the second one, it needs a 3x plus 2, but I already have 2 packed, so I'm okay there. And I need an x plus 1. So now, adjust the numerator accordingly. So I've got a 2x plus 1 and a 4x minus 5. Now one thing I have to make sure I don't forget is to put brackets around these, because these get multiplied by something. You need to make sure it's the entire binomial that gets multiplied. So 2x plus 1 should have brackets around it. And especially the 4x minus 5, because remember, that's subtraction in front, so subtraction has to apply to everything that's inside. So now I have to ask myself, okay, what do these need to get multiplied by, if anything? So the denominator here, we have 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2 originally. Now it's 3x plus 2, 3x plus 2, x plus 1. The only difference is the x plus 1, so make sure we multiply that numerator by x plus 1. So now, coming from the second fraction, our denominator is 3x plus 2, x plus 1. Okay, we need to be multiplying by another 3x plus 2 because the denominator here has 2 3x plus 2, this one only has 1. So we multiply by 3x plus 2 here. Okay, so again, at this point we're essentially done. You probably have most of the marks on a test question at this point, but just to make sure you get full marks, what you then have to do is then expand and simplify in the numerator just to make sure that nothing can simplify any further. So expand and simplify up here. That's what the arrays here are for, so you can expand 2x plus 1 times x plus 1, and 4x minus 5 times 3x plus 2. Okay, so give that a try. Do it through the algebra, and we'll go through the final answer together once you're ready. Okay, so as a check here, you can see you should get 2x squared plus 3x plus 1 for this first multiplication. For the second one, you should get 12x squared minus 7x minus 10. Remember, the negative that's in front distributes through to every term, so when you're collecting your like terms, be careful of that. So you're going to get 2x squared minus 12x squared to get minus 10x squared. 3x minus negative 7x, which is 3x plus 7x, get positive 10. 1 minus negative 10 gives you 11. So that becomes our final answer. Okay, hopefully you're starting to get a little bit of the hang of it now. They only get a bit more complicated from here, so let's give you one to try completely on your own. Okay, so again, same idea as the other one. Try and factor it, find your common denominator, find your new numerator, and expand and simplify. So this one I want you to do completely on your own. When you're ready to go through the answer, push play and we'll go through it together. Okay, so check your final answer down here. Again, if you've got it right, then you're all set to move on to the next example, but otherwise, let's go through this together. So first thing you gotta do is make sure your factoring is okay. So factor these denominators, because again, that needs to be done before you can worry about finding a lowest common denominator. Everything needs to be fully factored. So for your lowest common denominator, let's pack our bag. First one needs a 3x plus 1 and an x plus 3. Well, the second one needs an x plus 3, which is already packed, and then a 2x minus 3. So our lowest common denominator is 3x plus 1, x plus 3, 2x minus 3. So everything's covered there. Okay, so now to adjust our numerator accordingly. So remember, we started with the 4x minus 3. Compare the denominators. We went from 3x plus 1, x plus 3, to 3x plus 1, x plus 3, 2x minus 3. The only difference is that 2x minus 3, which we have to multiply by in the numerator now. Okay, for the second fraction, our denominator was x plus 3, 2x minus 3. So we need to now multiply by 3x plus 1 to get that common denominator, so make sure you do that in the numerator. Okay, and at this point, it really is just algebra. Your denominator stays the same. Don't expand and simplify that. It's nice when that's all in fully factored form. So you expand through these two binomials using an array, expand through these two binomials using an array. You can see the results you're supposed to get down here. Okay, then you can start collecting your like terms, and you wind up with 2x squared minus 35x plus 4 in the numerator, and your denominator stays the same as it was a few steps before. Okay, and again, with these, it just takes lots and lots of practice, so you just don't start making mistakes when it starts counting on a test. When you get to a test, it should be that you've done several of these, so there's nothing you have to sort of think through for the first or second time, right? It should become second nature at some point to be able to find the common denominator, find the new numerator, and then expand and simplify relatively quickly using arrays. Okay, so here's another one I'd like you to try. Again, try this one completely on your own. If you need help, ask me or ask someone else in class. And when you get the final answer, push play and we'll go through it together. Okay, so you can take a quick look at the answer here. So we started by, again, factoring the denominator here, so we get x minus 2, x minus 3. Then looking for a lowest common denominator. So again, from the first fraction, we need an x minus 2. So you can see it's packed down there. For the second fraction, we need x minus 2, but it's already packed, so we don't have to add another one. And we need x minus 3, so we pop it in there. Okay, so our lowest common denominator is now x minus 2, x minus 3. So that's a great start. So now we look at adjusting the numerator accordingly. So we start with our 3x plus 5, and again, what you're looking for is the differences between your original denominator and your new denominator. So the original denominator was x minus 2, the new one is x minus 2, x minus 3, so we have to multiply by that x minus 3 in order to adjust the numerator. So for the second fraction, the denominator is already x minus 2, x minus 3. Nothing needs to change, so we just keep that 4x plus 1. Now again, remember to put brackets around the original numerators, because remember, it's the whole 3x plus 5 is multiplied by the x minus 3, and this minus sign, the subtraction, has to apply to the entire fraction, so the entire 4x plus 1. So once you have that, it's a matter of expanding and simplifying. So you have your 3x plus 5 and your x minus 3. Okay, so you do that multiplication. You'll see we'll get exactly what we get in the numerator on the next line. So 3x squared minus 4x minus 15. The negative distributes through here, so we get minus 4x minus 1. Collect our like terms, and we receive this for a final answer. Okay, so there's only one example left, and we're going to put a few things together on this one. So again, it looks more complicated, but it really just involves more factoring. The one thing to watch out for here is we see we've got subtraction going on and division going on. So you have to ask yourself, okay, remember we've got subtraction, division, what do we have to do first? So hopefully order of operations is popping up in your mind a little bit. So order of operations means we'd have to do that division first. So I would start by doing this piece right here. And think back to last lesson, how do you handle division? Of course, you change it to multiplication, and then, of course, once you factor, try and move forward from there. So again, I want you to try this on your own first. I know it looks trickier, but take some time on it. I'll reveal a couple steps. I'll reveal a step at a time as you go through, and then you can sort of check your progress as you go through to your final answer. Okay, so all I'm going to do for you right now is just change that division to multiplication. And then again, at this point, you should be trying to factor absolutely everything. So I'll start with 3x squared minus 7. That actually does not factor at all, so you leave that there. But again, factor everything, and then so pause it, and then when you push play, I'll reveal the results of the factoring, so you can see if you're okay to move forward. Okay, so again, just check your factoring there. You'll see that, remember that the first fraction of the denominator should be done by grouping. So group those two terms together, common factor them. You should get x plus 2 times 3x squared minus 7. If you don't remember how to group, you can check previous lessons or come see me for help. Yeah, difference of squares over here. This one up here is simply done with common factoring. Just factor out the 2x out of 3x plus 5. And at this point, again, you're doing the multiplication first, but see what kind of canceling you can do. Okay, so you can see what cancels here. Again, anything in here, this multiplication, that's from numerator to denominator, can be canceled if you see anything in common. Now, it didn't show up here, but if there was something here, let's say there was a 3x minus 5 up here, okay, remember that you would actually not be able to cancel it with a 1 down here, okay, because they're separated by subtraction, they're not multiplied together. So keep that in mind, that you can't cancel across addition or subtraction, only across multiplication like this. Not that that came up here, but that's a common mistake that I tend to see. However, within this fraction, you can cancel out the 3x squared minus 7s because they're within the same fraction. Okay, so they're separated by multiplication division. So again, you cancel as much as you possibly can here. All you're left with here for this first fraction is 1 over x plus 2. And when you see what's left over from here, after everything's canceled out, you should wind up with 1 over x plus 2 minus 2x times 4x minus 7 over 3x minus 5 times x plus 2. Okay, so at this point now it becomes an addition subtraction problem. So take a minute, try and find your lowest common denominator, and try and get your new fraction. Okay, looking at lowest common denominator, for the first fraction I need to pack an x plus 2. For the second fraction I have a 3x minus 5 which I pack, and I need an x plus 2, but it's already packed so I don't have to add a second one. So your lowest common denominator is x plus 2, 3x minus 5. Okay, adjust your numerator accordingly, right? So again, to go from x plus 2 as a denominator to x plus 2, 3x minus 5, you need to multiply by 3x minus 5. Okay, and 2x times 4x minus 7 here, this numerator, the denominator is already the same as the lowest common denominator, so all I did here is just multiply through. So this in slow motion was negative 2x times 4x minus 7. Again, it wasn't multiplied by anything else because the denominator was already the same as the lowest common denominator. So when I multiply that through, I got minus 8x squared, and this should be plus 14x. Okay, because again, this distributes through. Okay, so at this point, then try and simplify as best you possibly can. Okay, and you'll see you get 3x minus 5 minus 8x squared plus 14x. You get negative 8x squared plus 17x minus 5, and you're done. Okay, so just keep order of operations in mind, and again, you'll see how important factoring comes up again. Just make sure you put everything into factored form. Okay, now, we're not actually quite done yet here. Remember to think of restrictions. Okay, we hadn't had to deal with any restrictions so far in this lesson because, again, we're doing adding and subtracting, nothing really canceled, but we did have some simplification going on here. So let's look at what was canceled on the way. So strictly, let's start with the green one here. The 4x minus 7 was canceled, and again, no 4x minus 7 in the denominator, the final answer, so x cannot be equal to 7 over 4. Okay, 3x plus 5 was canceled, no 3x plus 5 down here, so x can't be equal to negative 5 over 3. Okay, these 3x squared minus 7s were canceled, and again, no 3x squared minus 7 down here. So again, to remind yourself what those x values would be, remember you're looking for the value of x that makes that factor equal to 0. So solving for x here, you get 3x squared equals 7, x squared equals 7 over 3, which means that solving for x, x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 7/3. So that's two more restrictions right there, plus or minus the square root of 7/3. Okay, and again, we're almost done. Okay, we looked at a lot of restrictions, but remember, last but not least, remember that the question was originally division. So 6x squared plus 10x was originally the denominator. It was moved to the numerator. It was factored into 2x times 3x plus 5. We've already dealt with the fact that x can't be equal to negative 5 over 3 because that 3x plus 5 is canceled. But from this x here, we should recognize that x also cannot be equal to 0. So we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 restrictions on x here that we have to include because, again, things cancel on the way and we originally had division. Okay, so again, that lesson's relatively complicated. It's a long process that takes some time to get used to, so do make sure you practice. Homework questions are there. Please try them and come see if you have any questions at all. Okay, now this unit's done, you should start getting ready for quizzes, tests, so please make sure you're reviewing things as you go.